shit is killing me, bro. Okay. All right. I think we good now. Let me run it back from the top. All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Monday evening here on the East Coast. Another edition of the NBA Report, man. CP the Franchise, Dexter Henry of SNY TV on the ones and twos. On today's show, we're going to recap the week that was around the association. Got to start with putting some respect on Nikola Jokic's name. Jokic reigning supreme right now on the MVP race. The Boston Celtics getting some good news and could mean more scary hours for the rest of the league. Lamelo Ball drops 50 on the Milwaukee Bucks, plus our NBA surprises and disappointments as we approach just about the quarter season mark, man. So lock in, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Another edition of the NBA Report, man. Let's get it cracking. Dex, what's good, my guy? How you feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. A good, productive weekend. Ready for this holiday coming up, Thanksgiving. Always a blessing to see another one. So I'm good, man. Can't complain.
Yeah, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. To Mario, Gamba. Salute to you guys. Salute to everybody watching on Twitter, X as well. All right, Dex, let's start this off, man. Denver Nuggets had themselves an interesting week, up and down week. They suffered a tough loss to the Dallas Mavericks at home. And Mavs, give credit to the Mavs. They were playing well without Luka Doncic. Nuggets did mount a comeback, but it was all for naught as Najee Marshall and the gang closed things out there. But on the second night of a back-to-back, Nikola Jokic goes to the place where they find solace and find success. And that is against the Los Angeles Lakers, man. They put the work on the Lakers, 127-102. You had Jokic with 34 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, dominating AD as he usually does. And the Nuggets outscored the Lakers, bro, in the second half, 70-39. What you think about the Joker, man? Because right now he is putting up insane numbers, averaging triple-double on the campaign, 30, damn near 14 rebounds, and 11 assists, bro.
And this is the thing, CP, whenever you have guys that win multiple MVPs, there's always that voter fatigue, right? Where people are like, I don't know if I want to vote for them anymore. But his numbers just keep getting better. The efficiency is getting better. And what's really, really where I love to look at it, he is the most valuable player right now in the league because the Nuggets would be nowhere without him. They were struggling when he was out for his personal reasons, and now he's back. But they're not getting a really good season from Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray doesn't look right. MPJ has been he's been up and down. So his value is there. It's not just the numbers. He's seriously, the value is there. And then he was cooking AD again, who's been having a great season. No shade to AD. He's actually been having a great season, but he always has trouble with Jokic. And this guy didn't miss a beat coming back. And you're seeing the value for this Nuggets team. I think the key for this Nuggets team, where you look at another thing that makes him more valuable, look at the numbers when Jokic is on the court and look at the numbers when Jokic is off the court. The Nuggets are terrible. It's like something like minus 30 when he's not on the court in the minutes he's playing. So they're just losing those minutes. Can they find a way to win those minutes? I think that's going to be the interesting thing for them going forward. But right now, like you said, bro, Nikola Jokic, clear cut league MVP. I don't even think it's a discussion. You could tell me, they're 6 in the West. What are they? 9-6 right now?
Yeah, 6 in the West.
But where would they be without him? Yeah. that is literally the definition of the value there. Where would they be without him? And I can't see it. The numbers, and plus the numbers are stupid. They're just absolutely stupid right now.
Plus 33 efficiency differential. He's second in the league in points. He's first in rebounds, almost at 14. He's second in assists. Trae Young. I mean, we talk about, redefining the center position. It's amazing that, coming off, they win the championship, and then last year was a bit of a disaster. He wins the MVP, but it's almost an afterthought with the Celtics dominance. But we let's not forget that this man is doing this at the center position, bro, and is second in the league in assists per game right now. Incredible.
We need to start talking about Jokic as one of the best passing players ever. We like to say he's the best passing big man
Right.
ever, which he is. But this guy's just a brilliant passer. He's one of the best passers ever. He's second in the league in assists as a center. We haven't seen that ever. I don't know, say really
Yeah.
ever. We haven't really seen this ever, right? The way this man is operating, the way the offense is running through him and running smoothly, and he's doing this in a year, as I just said, guys, where Jamal Murray doesn't look right, and MPJ has been wildly inconsistent. Imagine if those two
Yeah.
guys were right. Nuggets might have 3 more wins a year. We might be talking about them atop the West. So scary hours for teams playing the Nuggets. The Knicks will find out about that
Yeah.
as they got to play them. So yeah, it's really scary what this guy is doing, and I think he's redefining the center position and also opening up for guys, big men who have the skills with the passing to be able to do more and run the offense through them.
Yeah, thinking about the fact that obviously it's early and things can change. Certainly, it's extremely early in the NBA. But I mean, at the rate that he is going right now, and the rate that the Nuggets are going, because like you said, with Jamal Murray struggling, they need all of Nikola Jokic's points and assists. Like, he has to be even better than he was last year, and surprisingly, he is. And it'd be ridiculous if he led the league, finishing with the scoring title, assist title, and was the rebound king. I mean, you might have to put him up there as the best ever if he ever got that done, man.
That's another conversation, CP. He's creeping up. He's got a title. If he wins another one, he's creeping up in where you got to start talking about him in that. I mean, I don't. Sometimes I hate getting into these lists so early in somebody's career.
Yeah.
But if he wins another MVP, and dare I say he wins another title, I mean, you're an elite company right there with 3 and 2 titles. That's a very, very, very elite company. You're talking about some of the top 10 to 12 players of all time. So he's close, knocking on the door. And you could make an argument, even in the year that Embiid won the MVP, it's like his numbers were great too. He was now Embiid deserved it. Don't get me wrong, but his numbers were fantastic as well too in that year. So that was a down year, if you want to say, for Jokic, which is scary. That was a down year.
Yeah.
Now he's bounced back, and you're right. The way he's going, you got to start talking about him as one of the best players of all time.
And right now, it was interesting. We were on the Knicks fan TV side. We were debating the other day the Austin Rivers clip about Towns or Jokic, who's the more skilled or the more skilled shooter, offensive player. Well, right now, Nikola Jokic is very early. He's shooting 56% from 3 on 4 attempts. Obviously, that should taper off. He's never averaged more than 40 in his career. But right now, on those 4 attempts, he's at 56% from 3. So a healthy volume there. And, leading his team, man. Nuggets have been up and down, but when he's on, they're on, man.
Max. No doubt about that.
You know what? And it's another thing that's interesting with the Jokic conversation, because we're also in this climate now where the NBA ratings are going down. But here it is where you have a guy who is at the center position doing what he's doing. So, like, from a media standpoint, how do they market a guy who is quote unquote not marketable? How do they highlight this guy in this era of lower ratings to show the world, like, yo, what this guy's doing is ridiculous right now?
This is a good question that a lot of people have paid a lot of money to figure out, not us. But here's the thing. And this, you remember this a couple years ago, Steve. If we go back 4 years ago, right, or before Jokic won the first MVP, there's a lot of people down him. Oh, is he that good? His game is not sexy. I get it.
Yeah.
It's aesthetically. See, I think it is. If you're looking for above the rim bang on somebody,
Right,
that's not what you're getting with Nikola Jokic. He's a below the rim guy. He's got great footwork. I find that stuff aesthetically pleasing, but I understand everybody does not. He's a brilliant passer. I think you got to show more of the dimes. I think that's the part of his game you have to really show and market. I think the other thing about marketing him is he's not really like a super personable dude. Listen, Nikola Jokic is kind of about, he plays basketball, he hoops, he likes his horses back in Serbia.
Yeah.
He does his thing. That's it, right? He's not really going to be out there. He's not really talking trash. He's just workmanlike. So I don't know, but I think sometimes all you got to do, maybe you just got to show what he's doing on the court. He doesn't have to be extra. You just got to show the passes, drops dimes. You can have him some different commercials. He was in, what was that commercial? The hotels.com commercials that he was doing.
Yeah, him and Peyton
You know,
Watson.
yeah, and they try to get a little personality out of him. Listen, is he ever going to be, Anthony Edwards? Nah, it's not. That's not who he is. He's not even going to be Luka Doncic. But I think there's a way you got to show what he does in the court that's great. And to me, it's what we've been highlighting and talking about here. It's the playmaking. It's the setting others up, like him dropping these dimes that are beautiful. He's got fantastic passes. You kind of got to show that and lean into. We've never seen a big man drop dimes like this before. I think that's the lane you got to lean into with him.
More of the pregame, more of the postgame, and more of the post-game, the social content. I think the NBA maybe needs to double down on that investment. Like, if they're trying to pull more casual viewers into the sport, obviously they're having an issue with the younger audiences not really caring about the full games. They should, because, a lot of it's still about LeBron. It's about LeBron and Bronny. It's sort of about Ant-Man. You're hearing some more Tatum stuff and more storylines, but, I just feel like the Jokic storyline, yes, on his on-court achievement is being highlighted to a certain extent, but overall, it's just not an overall storyline that is actively tracked like the Lakers are ad nauseum.
Yeah. And this is kind of, remember we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, CP. This is kind of like the Brian Windhorst comment, right?
Yeah.
And it's on the media, too, along with the marketing powers of the NBA. You have to find the stories that are going to resonate out there. I still believe people care about stories. Yes, younger audiences are not watching full games, but they do care about stories. They do care about following people on social, what they're connected to, what's really interesting. Use more clips of Jokic dropping these dimes. Maybe just talking about him. I'd love to hear Jokic talk about what's his mindset when he gets the ball in a high post. What's he think? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
What's he thinking about when he's seeing a play? Because he always looks like a guy that, this sounds cliche, but he'll see the play 2 moves ahead or 2 cuts ahead on a certain action. I want to hear from him on that. Get me into that. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think other people would want to hear on that too. And I think the NBA is probably missing on that, because I think what's happening, CP, is they look at it and say, oh, he doesn't have a personality. Just because somebody has a personality doesn't mean you can't market them. Because I think you can market the skill, right? Like, if the skill stands out and is so elite, you can get it done. Look, Jokic is probably more Tim Duncan than anything else.
For sure.
When I think about in terms of greatness with personality and that coming together, right?
Yeah.
Some people may say lack of personality, but I think there's still a way to do that. And listen, at the end of the day, dope plays make great highlights, make for great content, make for great things for us to talk about.
Yeah.
You brought up the shooting. We talk more about his passing, because that's the dopest part of his game.
Yeah.
And I think that's something they could lean into more. The NBA has to lean into that more, because I don't want to say they have a problem. I kind of hate when it gets talked about that the NBA has a problem. That the words about that annoy me, because baseball's viewership has been declining for years, and people just kind of look the other way to that. The NBA, I think, is just in a period, and a lot of sports are, and a lot of content is, and you got to adjust. You got to meet people where they are, and so I'm not sure they're doing that. Look, live sports are always going to have value, but you got to have a reason to bring people in, right? And so part of that is through storytelling. Look, we talked about this at the top of that when I was on with you last week. Whether people like it or not, whether you thought it was fixed or not, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, hey, they set up the story for you in that, right? The story mattered in that. Yes, it's not, for those who are serious boxing fans, it was not a serious fight. But the story of it, could Mike Tyson, you talked about this last week, could he recapture some of his glory? Could he knock out Jake Paul? Could Jake Paul knock him out? That right there, that was the story. That was the hook. That's why people were coming to see it for a variety of different reasons. And I think the NBA just has to lean into the talent and sell those stories to get people. Maybe it won't ever be the same with the games. Probably not. It's probably never going to be the same like it was when we were growing up. But you got to get them to care about the content again. And I think that's possible.
They should be, because the thing is that, especially with the megastars of yesteryear, part of, the allure of watching them and increasing the popularity of the sport, to me, was also their impact culturally. Whether it was in fashion or entertainment, whatever it was, LeBron would have those tentacles. Magic would have those tentacles. Jordan would have those tentacles. Tim Duncan, he's chilling. He's in the Virgin Islands in the offseason. He's going for a swim. He don't care about none of that. For the Jokic, like, maybe it's something like, hey, man, this guy's on his 4th MVP watch. Let's tap in. What is this guy doing tonight? What did Jokic do tonight? That should be a segment on ESPN and TNT every night that the Nuggets play, even when they're not on national TV. Here's the MVP watch because this guy is head and shoulders running away with this thing. Let's see how he played tonight. Something. Let's follow him around with a camera. Something like that, man.
Why? But you know what, CP? Why not? It's something different, and this can get into a whole nother discussion on media that we are both a part of. But it's like a lot of times people want to do the lazy thing. You and I have talked about this, the regurgitated thing.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get that in football, the Cowboys drives the conversation. I get that the Lakers drive the conversation in basketball. The Knicks do to a degree. So when things are going maybe sideways a little bit with those teams and there's some drama, we're going to all do it. But if you keep talking about, hey, this is why y'all should be watching Jokic. I get that it's Denver. I understand it's also not the sexiest market, but lean into that. And there could be some player that comes along in another market that's really dope that people don't know about. And I think you're right. Lean into that. Yeah, like, hey, there should be an MVP watch. You might have had the name for the segment right there, CP.
Yeah.
MVP watch. What's going on with Jokic? Check it out. Somebody else starts writing them for the MVP. All right, we're going to check in on this person. We're going to cut a segment on that and their highlights and see how they're getting there and break down the numbers. Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah, as you said, it may take a little bit more thinking outside the box for the NBA because this is a player who they have to do the heavy lifting. The player's just going to play and go home. Off season's going to Serbia, do the horse racing, have a drink, take it easy. But I think his greatness certainly needs to be appreciated and exposed a bit more from a media standpoint. But that was Jokic, and hopefully he doesn't continue his greatness against the New York Knicks tonight. But we'll have to. It's another conversation for another day. Nuggets are 6th in the West right now. They lose to the Mavs. They win versus the Lakers. You have Westbrook playing a little bit better. Porter up and down. Murray been a bit of a disappointment. Question is, can Jokic do it by himself in a loaded Western Conference?
No. To me, the answer is no, CP, because I'm so concerned about those minutes with him off the floor. I mean, the proof is in the pudding there.
Yeah.
I think we know the answer is because when you look at when they won 2 years ago, you saw Jamal Murray. He was starting to come back. He got healthier as the playoffs went along. You obviously had a good supporting cast with KCP, who's now gone, with Bruce Brown, who's now gone. Those guys were really instrumental, and they had the depth. They've never still really had that backup center that can really hold down those minutes. A little bit of DeAndre Jordan, who's still on the team, but that's not. Yeah, you're shaking your head. That's not the answer there, right? In terms of the minutes, is can you get stuff out of these other guys? Now, look, Brendan Malone has got to go into Mike Malone. Mike Malone, rest in peace, has to go into his younger side of his team a little bit more. And that is because Calvin Booth sort of forced his hand on that, not bringing some of those guys back. So now you're looking at, can Christian Brown play well? Who's been playing all right? Julian Strother, they're thinking about certain guys that they have to go to. And now it's, do you trust these guys in these moments? Does Jokic trust these guys? But I think a huge part of what they really need is, man, Jamal Murray's got to start looking like Jamal Murray again. If he doesn't want, and I was talking to somebody who's a Nuggets fan yesterday about this. Not too many Nuggets fans out there that I know, but I was talking to somebody and he was like, yo, we might need to go get depth. And I was wondering, I was like, would you trade Jamal Murray? Would you try to move on from him to maybe get a lesser point guard and some other pieces around that you could slot in? That could be interesting. You like how things are looking with Westbrook coming off the bench. He's been all right. Now, can he close? I don't know about that. Him in closing minutes, that's a concern. But would that be something they do? Would they trade Murray? Would they trade MPJ? That's interesting. I don't think they want to trade Aaron Gordon. I think he's too valuable a piece as a role player. But I do wonder if they're going to think about the depth for that team and making sure they could survive those minutes when Jokic isn't there. Because right now that's the problem for them.
Yeah.
That's their Achilles heel right
Yeah.
now. It's those minutes when he's on the court.
Yeah, I mean, you got a guy in Murray who's max player, woeful right now. Well, not woeful, but compared to his standards, I mean, this was a guy 2 years ago in the NBA Finals who was destroying the Miami Heat, absolutely putting the brakes on him, and now he's kind of you got people questioning his fire and desire. Is it the injury? What happened in the Olympics? It happened carry over from last year's playoffs. He's got to answer the call. Without him, and like you said, with the bench being depleted and inconsistent, it's going to be a tall order for them in the West. And that is why, like you said, when you run off Jokic's numbers, the net rating with him off the court, the differential with him off the court, it is clear cut that he is the MVP. So we'll see what happens there for the Denver Nuggets. On the East, the Celtics reign supreme, man. Last week was a big matchup with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Well, in the first half, they had a 21-point lead and did the Boston Celtics. Ended up winning that game by 3 points. But, Celtics reign supreme, man. And then they beat the Timberwolves yesterday. Came in town, had a 19-point lead. Yeah, Jaylen Brown go ballistic. Starting the game off with the first 15 points, 5 for 5 from downtown. 70% from three he would finish that game with. And Boston would hang on to win against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And now they get even better news when they got the return of Kristaps Porzingis coming back this week, most likely tonight, against the Clippers, man. I mean,
shocked me a little bit. I thought we might not see him till December.
Yeah.
It's like the rich are getting richer there up in Boston, and they already showed how they can really beat teams, and now they get even scarier with their stretch five out there who could defend. So, yeah, this is huge. This is huge for the Celtics, who are rolling. You could tell. We talked about this last week, CP. They really took that as a statement game against the Cavaliers, and you could see they came and gave it to them early, and it was a lot of what we talked about. They were going to spread it out. Yeah. You saw a lot of those threes. They were letting it fly, as the Celtics do, and the Cavaliers had to adjust because they really hadn't played an offense like that yet. So, I thought the Cavaliers did a good job in that game, though, fighting back. I think they should get credit for that. They did fight back and figure some things out in the second half. To the Cavs, I think will be fine, but Celtics, man, still the team to beat in my eyes, for sure.
And like you said, give credit to the Cavs because especially in the third quarter, second half overall, they played well. They played very well. And in most cases, they play a good of a game to win in most games against most teams. But this Boston team is different, bro. And the problem for the Cleveland Cavaliers is they had to come back from a 20-point deficit. Because when you're dealing with Boston, they outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers 66-30 from three. So you can't afford to make a mistake. You can't have empty possessions. You have to rebound. You have to force them to turn the ball over so that you can get extra possessions. You have to play against Boston a damn near perfect game to come out on top. And that is why the Celtics, to me, man, it's like, man, we're going back into the season. Right now, it's very early. I just don't see, outside of injuries, I don't see a team stop them. As good as Cleveland looked, I thought they were still overmatched by Boston.
Yeah, and that was without KP, right?
Like that was without KP.
I would agree. I would agree that they were overmatched in that game. You saw it early, and maybe some of that was the first time they played them. And I'll put it as overmatched for the moment. Again, if I'm a Cleveland fan, I would be encouraged by how they were figuring some things out and were better defensively in the second half. I think that would encourage me a little bit. But to your point, CP, you can't get down. You can't get down 2021. The Celtics are going to be a very tough team to come back against in the regular season, nevertheless the playoffs. You don't want to be down to them because, you might, if you're down 21, are you capable, if you're a good team, that maybe a tier below the Celtics, of putting together a 10-0 run, a 13-2 run? Sure, but then they're capable of stopping it with their defense, getting back, hit a couple shots, and next thing you know, it's up to 18 again. And with their defense, it's so good. Their role players are so good. And the other thing is we've got to value continuity, chemistry. Right. They know their roles. Derek White knows what he's doing. right? He knows everything that he's doing. Everybody knows what place they're supposed to be in. Even now you see Peyton Pritchard, look at his confidence off the
Yeah.
bench.
Six man
Crazy.
of the
Through
year
the roof.
candidate. He's
Six man of the
beasting right
year.
now.
Yeah.
Beasting.
His confidence is through the roof. And you could see it with that team. Um, and I think the confidence is only going to increase as they're going to slow play it with KP as he comes back, and see how he is. And they're going to get back to looking at what they did. But none of this should be surprising to us
Yeah.
because this team did most of their damage throughout their playoff run without KP last season.
Right.
So now they're getting him back and they want to see what they can do for a full season. I, watch out with Boston, man. They're on a mission. I think they want to try to go back to back, and we'll see. And look, if they keep winning and Tatum keeps playing well, he's probably number 2 in the MVP conversation for me right now. But it's not like he couldn't pass because people may value if their record is so much better than Denver's. He could then get looked at MVP. I just think right now Jokic's numbers are just so ridiculous. And
Yeah.
if you took him off the Nuggets, they would. I'm not sure what they would be. They might look like the Sixers. So, yeah, I just think that this team is getting scarier in Boston.
It's getting scary.
But if you're in that next tier in the East, if you're the Cavs, if you're the Knicks, you got to be looking and really studying how you're going to try to beat this team and slow this team down, and also understand. You said play a perfect game. You're kind of right about that. You can't have any mess ups against Boston,
No.
and you can't have it come playoff time.
Can't. And here's the thing: their 3-point differential is a record plus 20 points per game, and so they're letting it fly at a ridiculous clip. Oh, and then on the other end, they're shutting you down from shooting threes. Only team in the league next to the Rockets. They're number 2 in the league in terms of opponents' 3-point frequency. And they're number 5 in the league in terms of opponent 3-point accuracy. So you're not getting that much off because their closeouts and rotations are so good. And then you're bricking them when you do get the opportunity.
And then they're putting it up at a high volume and hitting them. So that's the thing too. I think that they sometimes don't get enough credit for. People are like, oh, the Celtics put up a lot of threes, but yeah, it's they're hitting it at a high volume, right? Like they're putting up the volume, but they're accurate with it, and that's what makes it so scary and put that pressure on you because you could be in it. That's another thing about it. I talked about being down with them, but you could also be in the game with them. It could be a 4-6 point game, and like this, it can go to 18 to 20.
Yeah.
And it could be and you could be shooting great from the field. Look at the Knicks on opening night.
Yeah.
You could be shooting great from the field, and it won't matter because of that 3-point differential and just the amount of points they can score from behind the line to you. So it's crazy.
And when you're talking about shooting from behind the line, man, I mean, we got to put some respect on Jason Tatum's name. You know, we're talking about Jokic, but Jason Tatum, man, 28 points per game. He's upped his 3-point attempts by almost 3 more per game. He was at 8 3-point attempts last year. He's at 11 this year. Shooting 37% from 3, shooting them from damn near the logo some nights. I mean, Jason Tatum has been phenomenal. Jaylen Brown has been phenomenal. Like, the Celtics, they just kill you from everywhere, man. But specifically to Tatum, I mean, you know, the MVP race, the rest of the pack, you could argue that he's leading there. You know, Giannis is there, SGA for sure, but Jason Tatum's right there now.
Yeah, Jason Tatum is definitely right there. I mean, he's definitely number 2. I would probably say Giannis number 3 because Giannis's numbers are ridiculous. Now, how sustainable it is, I don't know. What all that he has to do, he almost has like that Jokic problem, which yes, the value's there because look at Milwaukee. Yeah. He's played well. They've now climbed back up to 6th in the East, but is that sustainable? Does he have enough help to help him be that good? But we're talking. I like to talk with the MVP. I truly like to talk about value and what somebody means to a team. That matters to me. It's not just the numbers; it's also what you mean to that team and where they would be without you if you took them off the court. Yeah, but Tatum, you know, this is what's going to hurt Tatum in that voting. It's the point that I just made. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, he's got Brown there. Oh, he's got KP. Oh, he's got Drew Holiday. He has so much more. He does have more talent than those other guys I mentioned around him. He has more talent around him right now than Jokic does. He has more talent around him than Giannis does, for sure. But, you know, at the end of the day, if he's the best player with the best stats on the best team, some people value that too. I lean a little differently. I value a little bit more about you could have to be the best player with the best stats on the best team, but if there's somebody on another team that's putting up good or even better stats on a team that might have less wins, but I know that they'd be nowhere without you, I value that a little bit more. If I had to vote, I don't. If I did, that's kind of how I would vote. But yeah, Tatum's gonna have something to say about that. And he's up
Sure.
this game. Like you said, 11 threes now he's attempting a game. And he's hitting what about four? He's hitting almost close to four a game. So yeah, it's good. Look, there's gonna be some old school fans that are gonna be like, nah, the Celtics live and die by the three. They don't want like the Tatum shoots too many threes. The game is not what it was back then. You have to shoot more threes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what it is. To me, my thing I always keep saying is it's about the quality of threes you're taking. Now, if Tatum is taking hand in his threes, face threes, excuse me, fall aways, badly contested, yeah. But that's not what I've seen from
No.
the Celtics this year. He's taking really good attempts. The Celtics get really good looks. They're not just
Yeah.
jacking up threes for the sake of it. They get quality looks, and I think that matters.
Yeah, no question. And you know, it's like I'm saying, it's their defense that is facilitating a lot of it. You know, it's turning that defense into instant offense, and before you know, you're out of the gym. When I think about their defense, and especially because I'm looking at, you know, the Knicks struggles, especially on the defensive end, and I look at Boston and how stout they are 1 through 5 defensively, the way that they are able to not just stick to you from a man standpoint, they can switch, but the way that they use Drew Holiday, man, like, you know, whether it's on the opposing guard or it's on an opposing big who may not be as formidable in the post, and Drew Holiday holding his own, using him as that free safety of the defense. He said this year in an article in The Athletic where, like, you know, Joe Mazzulla has basically turned him into the signal caller. And for the first time this year, he's kind of the quarterback of first time in his career since going to Boston. He's kind of like the quarterback of that defense. I think a lot of that goes understated, and where it's like when you look at teams like the Knicks or even like the Pacers who want to be that high octane offense, your defense still has to be good, man. Your defense has to be better than good for you to really be able to sustain the small ball, the flexibility, and so on with the type of spacing that you're looking for offensively.
Yeah, I think what is it? It's like there's a stat. I could be wrong on this, so I apologize if I'm messing this up, but I don't think anybody's won an NBA title without a top 12 defense, right? Like, so I think the lowest was the Warriors a couple years ago when they won their last title they won, right? And I think their defense was right at rank 12th. So you got to at least be above average, right? And pretty good to be able to do this. And I think that's it. You're right. I do think it's understated with the Celtics. People will be like, man, they're so good offensively. Man, they get up a lot of threes and they hit a lot of threes. And we just talked about that. But they also make sure you can't. And they take away so much from you because their versatility defensively is so good. They're an elite defensive team and an elite offensive team. And that's what gives them staying power to be at the top of the NBA and where they are. And the other thing I think that should be valued about them that people don't talk about enough before they won last year is, they've stuck with their process. They
Sure.
tweaked, they added stuff. It was just 3 seasons ago. Oh, let's break up Tatum and Brown. Oh, it doesn't work. We got to break it up. And they stuck with their process. They had some changes. They made some tweaks. And look at where they are now. So, yeah, now the defense is good. I absolutely respect it. I think people should put more respect on that with the team. They're a fantastic defensive team, and that's what makes them tough to beat. It's not just them shooting more threes than you. They also can get stops and shut you down, and they're a problem.
Yeah. No question about it, man. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up on the feed, boys. CP and Dexter on the ones and twos. Another edition of the NBA Report, running down the week that was around the association. Lamelo drops a 50 piece this weekend, man, in a loss to the Milwaukee Bucks. But Lamelo Ball leading a very, very short-handed Charlotte Hornets team. Didn't get the job done, but drops a 50 piece. And I just think, from a Lamelo standpoint, as a young player in this league, a rising star, beset by injuries last year with the ankle, it's good to see him back, man. And maybe he's making a case for MIP. Who knows?
Yeah, it is good to see him back. And healthy. The thing with LaMelo Ball is always, can he stay healthy? I thought coming in, the one concern I had about him coming to the league, and this was for a lot of people that saw him playing the NBL, was could he shoot the ball as well? Well, he shot the ball a lot better in this league than I thought from his rookie year, especially from downtown. Now, sometimes for me, the shot selection could be a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
questionable. In this game, just to be fair, he had the 50 piece, he had 10 dimes, he took 38 shots,
Yes.
17 to 38 from the field.
But he had nobody, man. And,
No, but yo, so that's I have to be honest because I watched the end of this game, so I did not see it in the flow of the game, and then I looked at the box score and I saw that he had 38, and I was like, oh man, I wonder how many quality shots he had. But then I looked at who else was there, and I was like, outside of Brandon Miller,
what are you gonna do?
what was he going to do?
Yeah.
He didn't trust anybody there. So I kind of understood it. He did get to the line. He shot 17 times. I think he did get to the line 12 times in that game. 13 times. He got to the line 13 times in the game. So, he was getting to the line. He was being aggressive. He's a talented player. You almost want to see what can he do in terms of setting other people up and trying to make them better. I think because he's an underrated passer.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little careless with the turnovers, and I think that can come down. But he's gifted as passer with his height, his ability to shoot. It's just now, can he stay healthy, and can he start to make other players better around him? Like, how does he elevate Brandon Miller, who I love down there in Charlotte? How does he elevate him and other guys that are coming? Because Charlotte, they've also had some health issues. What's Grant Williams just went out.
Yeah, Grant Williams gone ACL.
Done for the year with ACL. So they've had some health issues, and it's tough in building that team. But they're playing hard, and it's good to see him healthy and back on the floor again.
Yeah, sure. and as you talked about, even with the Celtics, having patience with the build. They now have a formidable backcourt with Brandon Miller and Lamelo. The coach Charles Lee is coming in highly touted with a no nonsense reputation. The guy who's going to put the work in to make his team better. A good center, Mark Williams. Now he's out. They lost him.
Yep.
As well. So, they're not going to really know what they have with that core there, but they have some young pieces. I love Trey Mann. Love his game.
Yeah.
He's a little microwave scorer off the bench. So, it's a work in progress, but I want to see Charlotte be one of those teams that turns it around. They haven't been a successful organization literally in their history. So, I want to see them get it done, man.
They really haven't since a little bit of success here with Kemba Walker.
Yeah,
when he was there. You're talking about the Morning and Larry Johnson days, Muggsy Bogues days, taken away back. But I thought they were a team that could be really interesting in the East. Health now changes that for me. Shout out to my guy Rod Boone with the Charlotte Observer. I talked to him in Summer League, and he told me, Rod said to me, he said, Dex, I think they could win 35 games. And I was like, he was really, really high on that. And I was like, I asked him, I said, why? He said, look, if LaMelo's healthy, Brandon Miller, I see his game taking a little bit of a leap. He felt good about that, along with Bridges now being back in the fold. And he's got it healthy. But now, I worry about them with Grant Williams hurt, with Mark Williams hurt. How does that affect them? But they do play hard. And you wonder, could they sneak into the top of the play-in or dare I say 7? Could they get, that's the top of the plane. Could they get that high? It would be interesting to see. 35 wins. We'll see where they are. Right now, where are they on the season? They're in 12th place, and they have 6 wins. So 6 and 10. So they're kind of on pace for that. So we'll see. But I think it'll start with how Lamelo Ball, he should be in the running for MIP. I think that should be a goal of his. How improved is he in terms of cutting down on turnovers and making others better?
Yeah.
I think that's the next leap for him, along with staying healthy. If that happens, I think they could sneak into the top of the plan.
Yeah, well, and that is a good segue into our surprises and disappointments. I mean, as we segue to that and think about their potential outlook, I mean, very early, they're only half game out of playing territory here. And given that the East has been struggling, only 4 teams over 500 in the East compared to basically all teams in playoff contention in the West are over 500. I mean, is that really a surprise? I think it's more so the teams in the East that have been struggling. Philadelphia at the bottom. With Philadelphia, I thought the injury stuff would rear its head, but not until later in the season, once wear and tear kind of kicks in. I wasn't expecting this early, especially with Embiid and Paul George to be on the mend this early. The Bucks, they lost, I think, 6 of the first 8, and now they're back. They won 5 out of their last 6. So they've kind of been in a positive spot in 6th place. Yeah, the Pacers there at 7 and 10. They've kind of dipped. So I think it's kind of those teams where you expected them to be near the top of the East.
Mm-hmm.
Now at the bottom right now, or hovering around there, I think that's kind of been the biggest surprise for me in the East.
Yeah, I think that's it too. And I think that's what brought down the East, the record so much. In that is that you have, Philadelphia, who we'll get to in a second, is 10 games below 500. That shocked Milwaukee off to a bad start. They've started to turn it around and look a little better now. And in Indiana, what's going on there. And then you've had some teams that have probably played a little bit better than you thought. I mean, most notably, and you could put them as a surprise if you want to, it's got to be the Brooklyn Nets. If you thought at this point that they would have 6 to 7 wins, and they've played hard. If you watch 7 wins, and that's half.
Yeah.
They've played hard. If you look at them, they've played hard defensively. Jordy Fernandez has them playing really hard. I don't know what that's sustainable. I don't think that's what the Nets want because I think they wanted to tank. They were trying to sag for flag, and we'll see. I think that's really affecting it. I think some of the teams in the West will come down too. The West was going to be tougher. I just don't think the East will be as bad. I think some teams are going to start to get it together. And then also another team that's kind of flipped it around is the Magic have held it down with Powell out.
Yeah.
They've won 8 out of the last 9 games. So that kind of flips things around too. I think it'll balance itself out. I think you'll see some teams in the West bump down, like Portland, who's probably they've played well. I don't want to take away to give them credit. They played well, better than you thought. San Antonio was a game above 500, but I think a lot of people saw them taking a bit of a jump this year. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But I think a lot of it's because the two of the teams you thought that will be in the top 4 of the conference are not near there now, and one is far away from that. That's definitely affecting things.
I'm trying to think of the Pacers, man. 7 and 10, they're 8th right now. I had them around that like 5 to 7-ish range, but I am kind of surprised, man. I thought this was a team that was gonna come out the gates a little bit better. And a lot of the spotlight is on Tyrese Halliburton, man. I mean, he's shooting 37% from field, 29% from 3. He's been pretty dreadful for this team, far removed from, the highlight that he was last year for 1/2 to close to 3/4 of the season. With the Siakam trade and getting Mathurin back into the fold, another year with McConnell and Obi and a good bench and all of that. I mean, they did have some key losses in their front court, but I thought the Pacers would be a little bit better than they are at this point.
You just said something there that I thought was interesting in that Halliburton got off to such a great start last year, and then he got hurt. And if you look at it from about February on, like through the playoffs till now, he hasn't really shot the ball that well.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of that got masked in the playoffs because other guys played well around them. They get to the conference finals, they lose to Boston, the whole thing. But a lot of that has kind of been masked, and now they've got off to a good start. And now it's being more amplified. You said it's more magnified, I should say, on him right now in terms of how he's shooting the ball. And where I'm hearing him talk in post games, he just doesn't sound confident, which is crazy to me because he's a gifted passer. Really gifted passer, one of the best passers in the league, but you just can't hit a shot right now, and it's definitely hurting that team. Do I think he figures it out? Yes, I think he likely figures it out. Always with stuff like this, I always wonder too: is he 100% healthy? Is he not? You never kind of know, but he doesn't look and sound confident right now, which is not how he plays.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to keep an eye on with him. I don't know at the point, if you're a Pacers fan, where you start getting worried. I might say maybe if he's looking like this into the new year, then I might say there's some concern. But yeah, I know they're 8th. So I kind of had them in the range you had them to, 5 to 7. They also were a team that, like, if you told me they finished in the top 3, it wouldn't have shocked me. They had a good regular season. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have shocked me. But I think it's disappointing. I think it's how they've looked in being in the record that they have right now. It's how they look, and I think their lead star is struggling, and that hasn't been necessarily a good thing. And yeah, you're right. They've had some front court injuries that have been brutal. But yeah, I think they're definitely one of the more disappointing teams, if you want to say. I don't think they're the disappointing team in
Yeah.
the league, but I think they're one of the disappointing teams.
How about out west? You got Golden State leading the pack at 12-4. Oklahoma City, right where I expect them to be. They get Hartenstein back. He looks good in his debut with them. You got the Rockets in third place at 12-6. I love the way that they're playing. And Clippers defense has stepped up. They've won 5 straight. And Minnesota out of the picture right now at 8-8, trying to figure out things in the Randall era. What do you think out west, man? Surprises and disappointments.
So Golden State's my surprise because
Yeah.
if you'd have told me they would have won 12 out of 16, I'd have been like, I don't see it. Now, I did like their offseason. I've been on the record saying this. I like their offseason. I thought they got pieces that fit Kerr's system, and I think you're seeing that. They lost to Anthony Melton. That's huge because he just came back. He came back and was playing really well for them. Now, one of the things I talked about this yesterday with my guy Gerard Hector. One of the things I think is really interesting about what the Warriors are doing is that they're playing 13 deep. They got 13 players averaging, I think it's over 12 minutes a game. I like this. Watch this in the NBA. I think it's something for us to keep an eye on. They're playing 13 deep. The Cavs are playing 11 deep, CP. You're seeing that and I know Knicks fans are like, man, we wish Tibbs would do this.
Yeah.
The depth can matter when you trust your pieces, and it can help you later in the season when there are injuries. If something happens, now a guy's like, okay, I played a little bit. I know how to step into this role. So I think there's value in that and what they're doing. And I want to know, I'm really intrigued to see, even though I don't think Golden State's the most talented team in the West, just how them staying fresh is going to help them later in the season and into the playoffs. But their start has been surprising. As much as I like their offseason, I didn't think they'd win 12 out of 16. I've got to be surprised for that. Disappointments in the West. I think for me, I don't want to say Minnesota because I thought like the Knicks, they were going to have some growing pains with some new pieces. So I'm not really that shocked about it. I think you would have to say it's the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, some of this is rough for them because they have had injuries. DeJounte Murray, I know he's scheduled to come back this week. I think that was huge for them. Zion Williamson, he can never stay healthy. I mean, the Pelicans, I actually didn't realize this. I just looked at this. I realized they are last in the West, 4-13. I thought the Jazz were last, but they are last in the West at 4-13. So, that's disappointing because I think you thought, okay, even with Brandon Ingram, they had some time with Zion and CJ, who's also had his injury stuff too. Trey Murphy, he's been out. So they've had a lot of guys out, but I still think you thought, okay, maybe they still scrap together, maybe be 6-10 or something like that. To be 4-13, I think is really disappointing. It's hard to say somebody's so disappointing in the West because the West is so tough.
It's so tough.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so tough.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm struggling. If I had to pick one, I'd say the Pelicans just because of where they are. But it's so tough. Like, yeah, maybe you're a Kings fan and you're disappointed. Maybe you're a Timberwolves fan and you're disappointed. But again, the Timberwolves had some changes. The Kings are also integrating DeRozan. They've had some injuries. So the West is tough, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 2 weeks, we might be disappointed in somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's like,
you're right. No, you're definitely right. It's hard to be disappointed in a team in the West. I mean, you look at the Kings, they're 8-9. They're 2 games out of that 7 spot. Again, extremely early. You're 17 games into the season, not even close to a quarter of the way through. And that 8-9 would get you the 6th seed in the East right now.
Right.
So
right.
that just goes to show you how competitive the West is. But nevertheless, Golden State definitely, their start to me has been surprising. Number 4 ranked defense in the league right now. Like you said, Kerr trusting, as of right now, the 12 to 13 man rotation. He's sticking with it, and it's been paying dividends. It's keeping guys fresh. I think it's adding to the quality of their defense because guys are kind of able to expend more energy and really go all out. And then offensively, they're getting a number of contributions outside of Steph and Curry to really keep them afloat. I think a question for me is going to be, they tried to go get a market in the offseason. They tried to go get Paul George. Will they cash in some of this depth? Is part of this rotation play a message to the league like, hey, we got these guys going well right now. This guy's beasting. This guy's beasting. We're available. You know what I mean? Because
it's a good point, CP. I hadn't thought about it like that. I really hadn't because it's like showcasing your depth. Let me be clear. I do think Kirk cares about the depth to keep these minutes down.
Yeah.
But I do think the other part of what you're saying is what's smart teams and front offices do, and the Warriors have proven to do that, is okay, can we showcase some of this depth and go get a piece that can help Steph in the playoffs? Now,
Yeah.
who do you think will be a good fit for them? It's early. I know it's
Man.
early for us to get into this. But now you brought it up, I'm thinking, I'm like, who could work for them?
With the Zion stuff and him not even being close to returning, do the Pelicans ultimately pivot and trade Brandon Ingram finally? Do they trade Brandon Ingram? Like, I'm looking at some of these teams, like, he's a guy who I'm thinking about here. Dallas isn't going to be making any moves. Spurs aren't going to be making any moves. They're trying to build. Minnesota's done. I don't see the Kings moving on from anybody like a Murray or anybody like that. Is it an Ingram?
Well, especially if they keep losing. That's
right,
interesting.
Right.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Does Atlanta have somebody they may want? Bogdanovich is always hurt, but is he a guy that the Dubs may go after for some more depth? Right. I don't know, because I think it's going to come to a point when, especially competing in this West, they're going to need someone a bit more reliable as a secondary scoring option next to Steph Curry, especially when they get into the spring and ultimately to the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dunleavy and those guys, who they have on their radar as they get closer to the deadline.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I like that name, Ingram. I was trying to. You look through a lot of the Western Conference teams, I'm not sure they're moving that kind of guy you're talking about. I think when we get to the trade deadline, we'll see smaller moves.
Yeah,
possibly. You could also look at. I mean, Levine's name will probably come up from the Bulls.
Zach Levine.
Zach Levine's another name I think could come up. I would say look and see where the Raptors are. Does RJ come up? I don't know if he's the kind of guy that
my guy RJ's balling right now too, man. Shout out to the Broadway band.
He's been hooping.
He's been hooping. He's hooping right now.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, is it Cam Thomas from the Nets who we think will likely be on the trade block? Like him, Dorian Finney-Smith,
Cam Johnson
be out there. Cam Johnson, those guys are definitely going to be on the block.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting what they look. I think you bring up a great point about them showcasing talent. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it like that, but I think it makes a lot of sense, and you're probably raising the value of a lot of these guys as you start having these conversations after December 15th when more guys are trade eligible. It's a good point, CP. Yeah. It's a good one. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Serving two masters right now for sure, man. And then I got to give credit to Udoka and the Rockets, man. Udoka and the Rockets.
I love how they play.
Love how they play. They're looking like the team where, when they went out and got Van Fleet and got Dylan Brooks last year, I saw the vision in saying, you know what, look, we keep recycling young player. We need the vets in here to help this team move forward, plus the coach to kind of be the extension of the coach on the court. And I think that's the leadership that these guys are bringing. They have nice young wings. Jalen Green is taking a step. They got Amen Thompson literally guarding anybody right now. And it's paying dividends, man. I love Tari Eason. I love wings. I'm a big wing guy when it comes to the NBA because of their versatility. And the Rockets have a lot of young scrappers, man.
And I love Sengun. I like the big man. Sengun, a big guy he's not Jokic, not saying that, but he's in that mode where he can do a little with his back to the basket. He's got a good footwork. He can pass. He's an underrated passer. I like the Rockets team, and I've always loved Udoka as a coach. He's getting the most of that team. They have an identity. Yep. I think last year they were figuring out how to win, and now their identity is going to be defense. They're playing hard, and guys have bought in. I think you have to get guys like Jalen Green and some of the other young guys to buy. They've bought in, and I'm not. Will the Rockets stay in the top 4? I don't know, but they can. Yeah, they can. The way they play, they can. It wouldn't shock me if they were somewhere between 46 and 50 wins. It wouldn't shock me if they finished with that. They got the talent to do it.
Number 2 ranked defense in the league, and now you hear rumblings, where they try to go get KD or try to wait for Giannis. I would just say, let the young guys marinate, man. See what you're building right now with what you have. Don't just try to destroy it for, look, obviously Giannis is Giannis, and even KD's KD, right. But I wouldn't, if I'm Tillman Fertitta and those guys, don't hit the panic button that fast. Enjoy what you have right now and let the young guys continue to grow without Udoka, man.
I'm with you. I don't think I don't even think this deadline is the time to do it. I think this is something you evaluate in the offseason, see what this young squad could do, let them get that playoff experience if they can get it, and then I would evaluate from there. I think a lot of times people want the quick fix in season, which
Yeah.
I always will say, like, that never comes. I don't even know what fans expect. It never. When's the last? It never comes.
Never.
Last one I could really think about is like Rasheed Wallace to the Pistons.
Yeah.
In 04. I mean, Rasheed Wallace was a game changing addition they could add to the starting five, but I wouldn't. He wasn't like a superstar. So trading for Giannis in the middle of the season. I mean, obviously when the Knicks got Melo, but again, the Knicks were not good, and that didn't change anything within the season. So I think you wait, let this team build. Then if you need to go add a piece like Giannis, you see.
Yeah.
I think that's the play.
True indeed, man. Well, great show, my guy. Excellent show,
sir.
As usual. Got action-packed week this week again in the NBA, man. You got a return match between Cleveland and Boston, this time in Cleveland. So we'll see what Cleveland will have in store for those guys. Yeah, very excited for that. How about Ty Jerome, man? Past 2 games, he's averaging damn near 30 points a game. He's been electric. I mean, Cavs got shooters, man. They got a lot of shot creation this year.
And look, with a lot of these teams, is trusting your benches and finding some of these diamonds in the rough, or guys I don't want to call them diamonds in the rough all the time, but guys you've developed.
Yeah.
And have like trusted the process with and now are working in the system. That happens. This is why I'm a fan of sometimes just, even if it's a couple minutes a game, giving some of these guys minutes, letting them figure things out, because it helps build confidence. Ty Jerome is a perfect example of that.
True indeed, man. What do you got on deck on SNY this week?
This week, what we got coming up? Not too much. We got doing a little St. John's report with my man Zach Braziller. Coming up with that. Not sure. We got Knicks Weekly after the Hornets game on Friday. We used to do Thursday, but we're not doing it because Thanksgiving. So Friday, that's it right now. Not sure what we're doing with the next episode of New York Got Game, but I think it might be a deep dive evaluation through the Knicks, because we'll be through about 20 games. Nice time to look at them, and so we're going to take a good look at where the Knicks are and where they need to improve. So that's coming up soon.
There we go, man. Well, we'll chop it up, man. Great job as usual. Salute to everybody in the chat. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys CP and Dexter on the ones and twos. For my Knicks Fan TV family, we'll see you guys tonight. Knicks taking on the leading candidate for the MVP, a dominant Nikola Jokic. We'll see what happens there. Towns, will he be healthy to take on the Joker tonight? Because they're going to need him. If not, it's going to be a tall order, man. We'll see you guys next Monday. Tap in with you guys, man. Make sure that you check us out on audio podcast format as well. No reason to miss it. We're available on all major podcast platforms, man. Have a great Monday, everybody. We'll see you guys. Peace.